3 years. It's been 3 years since I took home my 2022 Genesis G70 Sport Prestige with the V6 engine. And the question is, I guess, after all these years, do I regret it? Before I get into that, I want to take you through owning the car so you can have a better overall view of what it's like to actually have a Genesis G70 parked in a garage. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to go from the things that I love all the way down to the things that I hate. And believe it or not, there are some things that drive me nuts about the car, which we're going to get into, so make sure you stick around. But first, the thing that I love most is the design. Here in the United States, you could buy a Genesis G70 in the year 2018, but that first generation of G70, as nice as it was not my cup of tea. Now, it pains me to say this, but as far as the performance and the tech, I did like. But as far as the styling, the first gen G70, nah, I did not like it, which is why I like this one so much more. The first G70 was actually based on the New York concept that Genesis came out back in 2016 or 17, that I believe it was. But this style is actually based on the Genesis Essentia concept that debuted, I believe it was in 2019 or 2020, and it was absolutely amazing to look at, because the Essentia concept is what started the entire family looks of the Genesis line that you see today, including that massive grille and those quad headlights looking absolutely incredible and really making the 2022 Genesis G70 stand out, and really made me fall in love with it because it just looks so nice and clean. And it's not just the exterior that I absolutely adore, the interior is really what makes it feel special, because this again happens to be the V6 Sport Prestige, which is the most expensive version of their least expensive car, and you get a few exclusives, one of which is really apparent, being that quilted Napa leather with the red contrast stitching. And if I'm honest, the reason I wanted the red outside is because of the red stitching inside, and even the seat belts. It just feels more cohesive to me as an entire unit. Another exclusive that you get in the tip-top level, at least in 2022, is the heads-up displays. If you ever flown a fighter jet or been in a fancy Corvette, you already know what the heads-up display does, but it allows you to see things like speed on the windshield, so that way if you're out having a little bit of fun on the road or the track, you can see exactly how fast you're going without ever having to take your eyes off the road. And being that I don't have to take my eyes off the road if I don't want to, I could actually make the driver's trip computer show me a few other things like oil temperature, torque, and boost pressure, so that way I know exactly what's going on if I'm out driving it around like it's a sporty car, which it is. Now, there's probably a few of you out there saying, well, of course he's going to say that. He sells the car and he buys the car he sells. He's just trying to pat his own pocket. He's going to say that it looks the most beautiful car in the world. I mean, I do think it's really, really pretty, but here's an ownership experience. Once, me and my lady were going to Icon Park, or the Orlando Eye here in Orlando, because there's a lot of restaurants. So they have free valet parking, so why not? I take advantage of the valet, and usually what happens, you give them the key, they go park your car somewhere, and they give you a ticket. Once you're done eating, you come, give them the ticket, then they take off running for a few minutes to go find your car, because apparently they park it in freaking Zimbabwe and they have to bring the car. So I'm coming out of getting food, I give the ticket, and they just give me my key. I didn't realize that the car was parked up front, and I'm super happy about it, because you know, if you happen to be a valet parker, that you're probably instructed to the nicest cars, you park right up front to kind of lend credence to the entire valet thing. So the fact that my car was not only parked up front, but parked right next to a C8 Corvette, which happened to be the hottest car in the US at the moment, that just means that it's not just me saying the car looks spectacular. Professional valets actually think my car looks spectacular enough to be next to a Corvette to help the aura of their whole valet parking thing. So yeah. Now, beyond the great looks, another thing that I'm absolutely in love with is the practicality of all the connectivity features of the car. So if the car has been baking in the sun all day, I can go to my phone, I can turn on the temperature of the air and also the seats. Beyond that, I could also know exactly where it is. So if I'm leaving the mall and I forgot where I parked it, I can just do the vehicle locator and it's going to go ahead and find where the car was. And beyond that, there's something else that I absolutely love, and this thing really takes the cake when it comes to connectivity. It's called Genesis Digital Key. As the name already implies, Genesis Digital Key allows you to use an app on your phone to actually drive the car around. So if I happen to take my key and I lock my car, I can leave it right here on this fence post, and when I come up with my phone, I can unlock the car. Once I unlock the car, I can hop on in, I put my phone on the wireless charging pad, and then I just hit the start button. The car cranks right on up, and then I'm able to go about my day even if I don't have my key. This was available for Android users in 2022, and I could already hear the people in the comments saying, what about Apple people? Genesis doesn't care about Apple people. Well, they kind of do, because if you happen to have had Apple, you already know that Apple does things Apple's way on Apple's time. So when it was launched, they also included this. This is the digital key card. So if you happen to not have an Android phone, you could still use the Genesis key card like the Teslas and drive around only needing this. Now, if you happen to pick one up as a pre-owned vehicle, no big deal. You can go to your local Genesis dealership, order your card, sync it to the car, and then voila. All you got to do is touch a few places and you're driving without, again, needing the key. It's a great backup and something that really helps me feel good about the car because I know it's basically future-proof. Now, I'm gonna shift a little bit away from what I loved because I wanna tell you about a few things that I actually liked about the car, because I know you're not here to have me just say for 5 hours, I love every aspect of my car, because I don't. But I do wanna give you some good, some bad, and then have you make your own decision. And something that I do like about the car is how well most of the components held up, including that quilted Napa leather. Now, I've been driving this car nearly every single day for the last 3 years, and it's incredible that even the driver's seat, after my big old self driving around as much as I do, it's actually held up. It's not cracking, it's not stretching. I've never used a single leather moisturizer or something to help the longevity of the car so far, just to show you that it's holding up extremely well, because Genesis does use a lot of quality parts. Something else, the touchscreen and connectivity stuff. I already mentioned about the phone usage and all that stuff, but I love the fact that in the 2022 version, you actually have a lot bigger of a screen. Not only can you see things like the map better, but being that you have more real estate there, you have your little icons spread further apart. So if you got big old stupid fat fingers like I do, you can make sure you hit the icon you intend to hit. And something else that I really do like, I believe it changed the course of my life, and that's privacy mode. Besides the app integration on your phone, if somebody happens to sync their phone with the car, it'll sync up the contacts list if you allow it to, which means that if you have somebody saved in your phone, when they call you or when they text you, you'll see their name on that big old touchscreen, and then you could either decide to answer the phone call or listen to a text message they might say. So, hypothetically, of course, let's say you are single and then you buy this car. You're probably going to be ready to mingle, and that means you're going on several dates with different people, and nothing blows up the date more than somebody else you're trying to talk to you when you're on that date. So let's say you're driving on a date and then somebody, let's say hypothetically Tasha, happens to call you. Of course, it's going to flash on the touchscreen and you're going to ignore it because you're on a date. But over the next few minutes, Tasha decides to send you a few texts. So over 10 minutes, you just keep on seeing the name Tasha flash up on that big old screen. Well, your date will get curious and say, who's Tasha? And you, being on the single market, trying not to blow up your date, you're gonna say, oh, Tasha's just a friend. Don't worry about it. And everybody knows in the single world that just a friend means that somebody else I'm trying to talk to, please stop asking me questions, I'm trying to enjoy my night. And then hypothetically, that person will make a big deal about it, and then you probably never see them again. Now, whether you're meant to be or not meant to be with them, debatable. But if you happen to have privacy mode engaged, what would happen is that if somebody calls you, it'll only show you their phone number, not a name. And if then they commence to text you, it won't even alert you that you're getting a text message, because privacy mode makes sure that your private stuff is kept private. Now, here's a few more things that I really do like about my car. And what I like about my car is the performance. Now, some of you might be saying, wait, you don't love the performance? What do you mean? You only like the performance of your car? That's so stupid. Well, let me put it to you like this. Let's say if you go to a 5-star hotel, and that 5-star hotel to also happen to have a clean bathroom. Well, does that mean you all of a sudden love toilets? No, of course not. That means it's something that you've come to expect, which is something that I feel in this car. Now, the performance is great. It is a V6 with 365 horsepower, so it is definitely no slouch. But the thing is, there's a lot of other cars in this category that have a little bit more. And it's still great that other cars are so fun and exciting, but the fact is, dollar for dollar and horsepower for horsepower, the G70 is actually kind of hard to beat, just because there is so much performance at such a good value. And that kind of brings me to another point. Genesis, they set out to make a really affordable car, not for the die-hard German lovers, because Genesis even admitted to themselves years back that, hey, this is not going to be for the die-hard BMW people or die-hard Mercedes people. What this whole brand is for is not just to compete with them, it's actually to have the people who are new to luxury and want to actually see their dollar go farther. Now, luxury cars aren't inexpensive, but comparatively speaking, the Genesis G70, even in this configuration, the G70 Sport Prestige with the twin turbos, is probably about $10,000 to $15,000 less than its contemporaries from Germany. Now, as far as performance, you can kind of decide how you want the car to feel, because there's something called drive modes. Now, if you're driving around here in a park or in the city, if you know you're going to be doing a lot of stop and go driving, I'd recommend you put it in eco mode, because it does really change the way the car drives. It changes the way the transmission responds, and it shifts at much lower revs, so that way you don't have to burn as much gas to get up to speed. Now, something else that I really do like is that even if you decide to do a lot of highway driving, I would definitely recommend that you put it in comfort mode. Comfort mode is a little bit peppier than the eco mode, but it allows for more linear control. So if you're on the highway and you need to do a pull from 50 to 60 or from 40 to 70, it's a little bit more linear. It's not as touchy as sport mode, but it's definitely more peppy than the eco mode, which honestly kind of nerfs the performance of the car. Now, if you do want to get hot and heavy with the car, you definitely should put it in sport mode, because although it's not linear, it's a little bit more sensitive. It really makes the entire car feel different. For the longest, I thought it was like a placebo effect until I actually started selling cars. This really does change everything. Not just the transmission response, letting you shift at a much higher rev, it actually sharpens up the steering wheel feel. And beyond that, being that this is the Sport Prestige, it actually hugs me in the seat, so that way if I'm taking a couple corners, it'll hold me in place. And obviously this actually has the electronic suspension, so it makes the rebound a little bit different than what it would be in comfort mode, so it feels more performance-y. Now, let's say if you get this car but you want to do something fun, like go to autocross day with your friends because you just got new tires on the car, well, I would recommend Sport Plus, because it gives you all the benefits of Sport, except it turns off the traction control. So that way, if you want to go ahead and kick out the rear end a little bit or a lot of it, you actually can do it without all those electronic nannies that so many die-hard enthusiasts absolutely hate in a performance situation. So that's always kind of fun, and you can kind of mix and match just to see which one you prefer. But yeah, the control over the G70, Genesis doesn't just say, okay, this is as good as it's gonna get, deal with it. They actually allow you to have input into how your car actually drives, because Genesis understands, hey, this is your car. Since this video review is on owning the car and not just what features it brings, I want to tell you about another thing that I love that really goes hand in hand with the ownership experience. It is the warranty. So Genesis has one of the best luxury car warranties out there. If you're talking about powertrain coverage, you have powertrain coverage for 10 years or up to 100,000 miles. So engine, transmission, anything weird happens to go on with the powertrain, you are covered for a very, very long amount of time. Now, what about all the electronic stuff? Your new car warranty, your comprehensive vehicle warranty, your bumper to bumper, whatever you want to call that warranty, that is covered for 5 years or 60,000 miles. So if you happen to have issues with the air conditioning or any of the sensors, or if your seatbelt happens to go slack, that's all going to be covered under that 5 years or 60,000 miles worth of warranty. Beyond that, if I ever run out of gas or need any type of towing, I have 5 years of roadside assistance with the car. It's absolutely incredible. So if I don't feel like putting on my spare tire, I just call up the roadside and they'll come and help me out, which is great. I won't be stranded on the side of the road or have to pay for like a AAA type of service, because it's already included in the car. Luckily, I've never needed to use it, so, you know, knock on whatever, but hopefully I'll never need to. But even if I did, I still have 2 more years of coverage because it's 5 years. Now, something that I absolutely love is not having to pay for stuff. Probably you are the same way, but if you happen to get a brand new Genesis, you actually have free maintenance for 3 years or 36,000 miles, whichever happens to go first. So I've had the car, right now I'm at 40,000 miles. I have only had to pay for 1 maintenance. because you have oil changes, tire rotations, and your multi-point inspections covered for the first 3 years. So the cost of running this car is extremely low. So again, if you're new to luxury, it's more of an ease into what type of lifestyle you can expect. And the fact that Genesis is giving you this with any Genesis that you buy, not just the G70, but any Genesis you buy, is incredible. You don't have to go and buy a $600 package in the finance office with Genesis if you don't want to. All that's included. Now, I do want to shift from those things that I do like to a few things that I don't like. And the first thing that I want to tell you about the things that I don't like is fuel economy. Now, just background on me. Every single car that I've ever had has been a 4-cylinder Japanese car. Honda Preludes, Honda Civics, Nissan Sentras. My most recent car, the car that I had right before this one, is actually, or was actually, a Mazda 3. But going from a 4-cylinder Japanese economy car to this, a luxury sporty car, big wake-up call, because since I bought the car, I've never really changed the accumulated info, just because I knew I was going to make this video. So over the last 10,000 miles, which is really beyond 10,000 miles, it's been 40,000 miles, I've been able to average 19.3 miles a gallon. Now, some people might say, oh, that's atrocious, or my car's more efficient, or you should be driving a pickup truck. I don't know, maybe. It's actually better than the window sticker says, because the window says I should expect 18 miles per gallon city and 27 miles per gallon on the highway. So the fact that every once in a while I will go on the highway, but mainly is going from home to work or just a couple places inside of work or in the city, I think is really, really tremendous. Especially, again, you couple it with the eco mode, it's really gonna do its best to save you fuel. Now, another thing that I find kind of sad, obviously, it's nothing with the car, but it is kind of something with the car. The G70 platform, Genesis has already said they're actually not going to continue with because of slow sales. Now, my dealership sells a good bit of Genesis, but it seems that the G70s don't sell as much. And it's crazy to me because it is an insanely good value. But I remember reading an article, maybe not even that long ago, I think it was from 22 to 23 or 23 to 24, that in Europe, they sold less than 100 G70s, which is crazy to me because in Europe, they actually have a shooting brake version of this, which is basically a wagon style for all you Americans out there. But even with that, they sold less than 100 units. And I think the comparable BMW 3 Series was able to sell, what, 67,000 units? So yeah, apparently in the world, not just here in the US, it's not that the car is bad, it's just that everybody's trying to go to an SUV. Everybody wants the biggest, baddest, or just sitting up a little bit higher. And of course, sedans might be going the way of the dodo bird. But the thing is that it's just sad that this car, as cool as I personally think it is, it might be dying. So I know in most lives of men, at least, you know, there's two major things that you risk losing. It's either the love of your life or your favorite car. Will this be the loss of my favorite car ever? I guess time will tell. I don't even know if I'm gonna keep this car. Maybe I will keep it long term. Maybe I'll trade it in. Maybe it'll start to annoy me. But yeah, that just makes me sad. And it's something I don't like because I like the car, but I don't like the fact that it's not gonna stick around forever. Which, I don't know, maybe it's like a flower in that respect, you know? So it's not permanent, but the beauty of it isn't in its permanence. It is in what it is during its lifetime. So yeah, maybe that's bittersweet. To get into something, again, that I don't like is the holdup of some of the Genesis components. Look at this, the driver's seat belt. Again, I've been using this car nearly every single day for the last 3 years. Kind of just hangs there. Luckily though, it actually is under warranty. And something else that I believe is warrantyable is the strips next to the sunroof. They're a little sun faded. Luckily, my car, the paint is super good still after 3 years. It's not sun fading or anything, nothing bad with the paint yet. Red cars in Florida, they're kind of notorious for kind of fading over time, but this one's still holding well. It's just the plastic that looks a little faded. Shifting over from that, I do want to tell you something that I think holds this car back, and it's personally something I actually hate about the car. I hate the size of that rear seat. Absolutely hate it. Now, me personally, I do a lot of city driving, and it's usually just me or me and a friend. I never really need to take a car full of people. So this car, if you're in that situation, it's gonna be great for you. If it's just you or you and someone else sitting up here, you guys got all the leg room in the world. Not so in back, and that's why I think that the Genesis G70 is not selling as well as other sedans, because like I said, this is based off the Essentia concept, a coupe-like silhouette. So to have that silhouette, you do give up a little bit of headroom in the back, where if you look at the rear of like a 3 Series or a C-Class Mercedes, the size and height of the rear headroom is a little bit more raked out, so you lose a little bit of headroom, which means you lose a little bit of legroom here too, because the rear legroom now is better than a Mustang, is better than a Porsche. You know, it really does have 4 doors, and you know what they say, 4 doors, more people. But again, that's one of the major things that I think is allowing the Genesis to kill off the G70. It's just no room in the back. Now, like I said, on a day-to-day, I don't really care because it's me most of the time. But whenever you do decide to take people with you, it's one of those things that you're not aware of, but as soon as somebody say, hey, let me hitch a ride, it's like, ooh, wait, do I got enough room for them? So all that is something that I really think holds the car back, is just the interior volume. You know, as good as it looks, to be practical, it still needs to have a little bit of room, and it does have a little bit of room, but just very little. So if you have, I'm 6'1", if you have friends that are 6'1", or I think north of 5'8", they might be a little bit uncomfortable sitting in the back. And if you're 6'1" and happen to have friends that are similar to you, not only will they be uncomfortable, but you'll have to scooch up your seat and you'll be uncomfortable. So it's just gonna be a horrible time for everybody. But with all that being said, all the good and all the bad, do I regret buying this car all those years ago? Nah, I do not regret it for even a single second. I love this car, flaws and all. Now, if you happen to live a similar lifestyle and don't really take too many people with you, but love the style, you should definitely put it on your short list, because this thing has been a ball to own and it has been extremely fun. I can't guarantee you're gonna fall in love with it, but at least I can guarantee you're gonna have a slight kick whenever you pull up somewhere or just step on that throttle. So thank you for coming along for this video. If you like these videos, make sure you like, subscribe, and share. Don't forget to hit the little bell notification so you can know the second I upload my newest video. But till next time, I'm the Garrett Car Guy, and I'll see you soon.